I'm Max Sterling, welcome to LarpMix. Today I'm going to show you how to make a wand or a spell striker. Now I made a video a while back about making boffer wands, and that was completely different, more for American style LARPs, and that's just if you wanted to have something in your hand that you could parry and hit back or block with. Now the one we're going to make today is more along the lines of an actual wand, or some games that you play may be called a spell striker. And I tried to sort of gather up all the rules I could find on this item and then sort of find if they covered any even ground so that you could just make one that would work across multiple games. And what I found is that the rules really vary a lot from game to game, but most of them fall within an 8 to 14 inch range, and most of them agree that you wanted to have it about a ½ inch in diameter on the tip or bigger. And most of them involve having a core in them, and they say you can make them from pretty much anything you want. I saw examples anything from just people picking up sticks on the ground to actually having really nicely made professional ones that are latex and stuff. But I'm going to show you how to make a simple one that you can do with just a few things you have laying around, or maybe a couple dollars worth of items. So why would I want a wand or a spell striker? Well, one thing that I've seen, and it's nothing new unfortunately to the hobby, but one thing that I've seen recently is a lot of stuff on social media about just people being mistreated, physical violence, unwanted physical touch, and things like wands and spell strikers really helped remove that from the game. Now, I read a lot of rules, and some rule books will say things like you need to have skin-to-skin contact to cast spells. And, for someone like me, I don't like to be touched. And for people to touch me, and for it specifically to say skin-to-skin, that freaks me out. If I played a game that was like that, all I can tell you is that I would never be healed, ever, in that game. When I go to games, I wear gloves all the time. I mean, I don't take them off for anything. So for someone to actually find skin on me to touch, they would probably have to touch my face, or I would have to remove something, and I'm not doing that. So for me, that would mess up the immersion, and it would really sort of mess up the dynamics of the game as well, because people come over and try to heal me and back, get away from me. I'll just die. I don't care. And it just throws everything off. Now, a lot of people, you don't have a problem with that. That's fine. People would sign a consent form to say, I'm perfectly fine with physical role play, I'm perfectly fine with physical touch. But I have a feeling that there's a lot of people that aren't really. And sometimes when you're thrust into a game, nobody has thought about that because maybe it's an older game, or maybe it's just something that was overlooked when the game was created. So here you are just in a situation, people are coming up to you and they're touching you to do skills and touching you to heal you, or maybe just touching you to touch you, and it's freaking you out. And I get that. I totally do. And that's why I like these wands or these spell strikers. Now, if your game has other rules where it says to do certain things, you have to initiate touch. I mean, you may not be able to get around that. The only thing you can do in that is suggest to the people that made the game or run the game that they reconsider and change those rules to where someone can touch you with a wand, or they can touch you with a spell packet, or if you don't like to be touched at all, they can literally just stand there, say their incantation or whatever they have to do, and just point at you and you take it. Because that unwanted physical touch, I mean, it can it can be nothing or it can be something, and I would hate for anyone to get creeped out by a game mechanic. And I hope that if you run a game and you're listening to this, you sort of understand what I'm talking about, and maybe you would even consider revisiting those rules. Now, as far as the wand or striker, what it is it's just a item that you touch someone with. So something like maybe like a dagger, and you're going to touch them and say, okay, I healed you for 5 points, or whatever it is that you do at your game. But it looks like a wand, so it's more immersive and it's more tailored towards, your mage, wizard type characters or what have you. So the easiest way to make one of these that I find is just to get some foam and then put a core in it, and basically just like you were building a small dagger, except we're going to leave it round, and basically we're going to paint it to look like a stick. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do this. I've seen a lot of really cool examples. You can put things on the end, orbs, roses. You can make them very ornate, and just the sky's the limit, just same as when you're building weapons and armor and stuff. So I'm just going to give you a basic one that you can create, and then from there let your imagination run wild, and if you have a good budget, you know, build it however you see fit. Now you can also buy these things online if you search around, but I always enjoy creating my own, so we're going to go ahead and make one of them. Just one other thing here, I want to thank Maxx, Evergreen brand, for sending me this awesome shirt. If you're looking for a LARP shirt, I'll include the description and a link below. It's a very nice shirt, fits well, and I'm enjoying it. It comes in a bunch of different colors, but I chose to get black because a lot of games I play, when you NPC, they require you to wear black. So with this shirt, even though it's white, I can flip it inside out and wear it for an NPC shift, and then, you know, in the downtime or when I'm leaving or whatever, I can just flip it right side out again, you know, or whatever I want to do. So I always like those dual purpose type of things, and for me, a shirt like this really serves a dual purpose. So, you know, if you LARP and you want a cool shirt, go ahead and check out that description down, the link below, and pick yourself one up. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get out here and start making this spell striker or LARP wand, so that we don't have to initiate physical contact with anyone other than just a tap with that. I'm just going to fast forward through the construction phase here because it's nothing you haven't seen before on the channel, and it's pretty easy to do, really. Basically, get yourself a piece of pipe insulation foam, 3/8 inch walled. That's about just shy of a centimeter, and it would be an inch across basically, or about 2.5 centimeters across. And then from there, what you're going to do is measure this out. Most rule books I referenced, you know, said between 8 and 14 inches, so we're going to go with a 12-inch wand or spell striker here. So just measure that out, and then basically from there you're going to go ahead and just cut the foam lengthways. And what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting out the middle section on an angle, and then that way I can go ahead and reduce the outside diameter of this thing. And I want it to be basically about the size of a quarter, or which is about an inch or a little bit less than an inch across. If you're using a different currency, well, you have to figure out what size that is. And from there, we're just going to glue this back together. Once you have your foam cut and glued back together, you can put a corner if you want. I'm going to use a piece of fiberglass driveway marker here, which is pretty standard stuff. And then we're just going to tape it so that it stays in place while the glue is setting. I didn't have any barge cement or something good, so I just had to use some crappy adhesive that I had laying around, but it'll get the job done. We're not making a boffer weapon. These are not meant for fighting or striking, so it just needs to hold together. It doesn't have to hold together, if you're actually hitting people or things with it. We're just going to sand it down when it's all done, make it smooth, and then we're going right into paint. For this, I'm going to plasti dip it. Just spray plasti dip a couple coats on the bottom. Then we're going to paint it with acrylic paints, the same type of paints I normally use. And when it's all done, we'll just hit it with a clear coat. I'm going to do a leather grip on it, which is pretty easy. You just cut a piece of leather the size you want, and then we're going to glue that on there as well. And I may do a little bit of embellishment with some rub and buff and some craft foam, but basically it's a wand, it's a stick that I rubbed a piece of leather around, so I don't want to get too elaborate, but you can really do whatever you want on this. The paint job is going to be what really sells it, so make sure you got a decent paint job on there and you'll be all set. And I'll let you watch what I'm doing here, and you can figure out the details if anything is moving too fast here. So I finished up this wand here. I have this actual stick, and this is sort of the color I was going for with it. And this is what we end up with. And you can see here, it's a lot more brown, but it's got that gray sort of tone to it. So I wanted to leave it more brown because I think that reads better as a stick. And I left this kind of hollow in the end, so it looks, you know, sort of like it's just a piece of wood I picked up. Now, can you do a lot more with this? Yeah, sure, you can do a whole lot more with it. But if you're just going to make a real basic thing real quick, this did not take very long to make, and it is a spell striker. I put my felt on the bottom, decided to do a little bit of embellishment down here. We have our wrap and our little handle. Now I chose to make this just a few fingers on here. I could have made it, you know, full grip. I felt like if I made a full grip, it looked like a little dagger or maybe like a little club or something. I felt like if I left it sort of, you know, just a few fingers here, that it made it more of a wand. And of course you can, you know, hold on to it with this little loop. So, like I said, the reason we made this is because now, instead of coming up to people and touching them and saying, you know, I'm healing you for 10 points or whatever you do at your game, now I can walk up to someone, I can say, abracadabra, 500 damage. So, it's a lot nicer to have this because there's no physical hand-to-hand, skin-to-skin contact. I think people would be less offended getting tapped with something like this as opposed to touched. And depending on the scenario, you know, it can make a huge difference. And depending on consent levels, I mean, there's people out there probably saying, you know, I don't care about this. But there's a lot of people out there saying, geez, I really wish my game had this. So, you know, it's a give and a take, but I would say if you can do something like this, as opposed to having the touch system, then, you know, why wouldn't you? Or at least make it an option for people. Because that's a lot easier than walking up to someone, grabbing them, and then having them get, you know, very offended by it, breaking immersion, and having it, you know, transpire into an out-of-game sort of scenario, which I've seen at LARP. And when I was making this, that's really sort of what I was thinking about in that time frame. I've had people grab me, not inappropriately, but like grab me, touch me, and I don't want that. The game I go to does not basically permit that, and I don't want that to happen. So I know the feeling, and having something like this, if someone would come up and just hit me with this or tap me with it or whatever, that would have been fine. But yeah, the grabbing, the restraining, yeah. And if you're on the same page as me, then you get it. If you're not, hey, that's fine. You may play a different game, a game where all that's fine. You may say I'm being sensitive, but at the end of the day, you got to do what is best for the greater good. And I think that something like this is a lot better than doing the physical contact, hand-to-hand type stuff. And as far as this wand or spell striker, I put a core in this one. I don't particularly care for the core system because I feel like you could still put an eye out with this. The reason why it has to be the diameter and stuff that it is so that you can't put an eye out with it, but I could very easily still shove this through someone's eye. With the core in there, if I had my hand behind this, I could definitely shove this into your eye, and if someone's not having a good day, same way if I'm running with this and fall on it, I'm definitely getting impaled. So if I was making one, or if I was running a LARP, I would actually say to not make these. There's games where something like this is perfectly fine to use as a wand, and that's really dangerous. This is a little less dangerous, but I would have preferred to have made this without the core, but all the rules that I read basically said to use a core in it. If I was going to use this at my primary game that I play, there would be no core in this, and I would try to roll with that. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the little bell icon so you're notified when my videos come out every week. If you found this video to be useful, please comment below. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, then comment below also. Let's have a discussion about it. Please share my videos with everyone that you know that LARPs, and maybe even that doesn't LARP, so they can see what it's all about. And if you're an organizer, or if you think your game might want to use something like this, then please feel free to share this video with them and let them sort of know that other games do this and that it can really help just prevent, you know, awkward situations from arising. And, of course, as always, adventure on. Yeah, I think that turned out pretty good. Abracadabra, turn invisible. Wait a second. Oh, man. I dropped that wand. Where did it go? Damn.